Welcome back to On the Line. I'm your host, as always, Juan Roque, with my partner in crime, my brother, the Rhino, Ryan Knowles. And that was a fantastic summit, Rhino. Hell of a job on recapping that Sissy Cat game.
And anytime beat the rivals got to put you in a good mood.
Absolutely.
It's always fun to talk about.
Considering the depression we went through last year, walking out of Sun Devil Stadium, I had to put on UNV gear.
That's right.
It's been all over Facebook. Trust me, I got a lot of grief about that the week up to the game.
Oh, man.
But talking about 2012, Rhino, we've been over this several times as far as what was ticking us off, what was making us happy. It seemed like one hell of a roller coaster, right, during the 12-game season.
At times it was, yes.
So, your biggest surprise, and this is something that we both agree on as far as surprises of 2012.
Well, first of all and foremost, I mentioned it, when we recapped U of A, I said, Marion Grice. I mean, the guy has just been a phenomenal player, both in the pass, both in the receiving and the rushing game. 926 all-purpose yards and 17 total touchdowns for a guy who was playing JUCO ball in Florida last year. So for Todd Graham to be able to bring him in, work him into this offense, and for him to have the impact that he did on this team this year, I think is huge. I'm looking forward to a big season from him next year.
And that's kudos to Graham and the staff for being able to evaluate this young man and being able to see something in him. They did the same thing with like Derek Rogers, where Cazzetto saw something in him at Riverside, where he was dominating Riverside, but he knew he could translate that into the Pac-10 back then. And for Graham and his staff to look at this guy Norvell and say, look, this is a guy that can help us. Holy crap! You want to talk about a score?
Yeah,
JUCO guys, Ryan Terrain too. I mean, JUCO guys, it's so hit and miss, and we're going to get into misses on JUCO because they didn't get 100% on this recruiting class. But I agree 100%. And Grice, I think DJ Foster deserves a little bit of recognition as far as a pleasant surprise.
Over 1,000 all-purpose yards for him this year. I mean, he had the 6 total touchdowns, but they seemed to come at big times.
Right.
I mean, he had the one touchdown. It seemed like it was going to win the game for them against UCLA. He had just continued to make big plays all year that really seemed to, get them first downs. I mean, they were willing to go to him during key situations. And this is a guy who's a true freshman.
Absolutely.
True freshman
18-year-old
making
kid.
these plays. And so for him, and I think he's going to continue to grow into the position and adjust to the speed of the game, and he's only going to get better. That's
Foster for Heisman 2014.
That's a scary thing. That's a scary thing. He's only going to get better.
I mean, biggest impact, Marion Grice?
I would say so. I mean, but you got to talk about some other guys who played big roles on this team.
Talk about them.
And Taylor Kelly was one. I mean, he's a guy who came into the fall, the third-string quarterback, threw for over 3,000 yards, 25 passing touchdowns, only 9 interceptions, ran for over 400 yards as well. He threw for over 2,500 yards, ran for another 400. Chris Coyle was the team's leading receiver, 53 receptions, 659 yards,
big time
5 touchdowns. Yeah,
we finally got tight end play.
For the tight end to finally come into play, and for it, and Chris Coyle to play it as well as he did in both the receiving and the blocking game. He's a very good blocker. For
I'm just thankful the kid stayed in school, because with Noel Mazzoni's offense, he was kind of a forgotten man out there, and for Graham and his staff to come in and identify the talents of this kid and put him to work, I just think a hell of a job for not only the coaching staff, but for Coyle for sticking it out, because he could have just called it quits and took off right over somewhere else.
Finishing up the players, Kevin Ozier, I think, was a very pleasant surprise. A former walk-on who came in, had 5 receiving touchdowns on the year. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do as he, hopefully he can become that #1 receiver in this offense.
Would he be your player to watch in 13? Does Ozier?
Him and Marion Grice, I think, definitely.
Grice might be All-American next year.
I hope so.
Definitely going to be.
Also, one thing that comes to mind, when we're just talking about the team, discipline and the penalties, I think, was a major step forward this year. I mean, they were the best in the conference by far. I mean, they only had 53 on the year. That was 26 fewer than the next closest team, Stanford. And
Stanford's pretty disciplined.
Yeah, exactly. and also their fourth quarter play, I think, was huge this year. And we talked about it against U of A. That came into play. But they outscored teams 126-48. So for Todd Graham to get his guys up, and when they flash the 4, for them to come out and play at another level, the way they did this year, I think, was huge. Hopefully they can continue that into next year.
100% in agreement. My player to watch right now, and I'm going to say it first, is Jamil Douglas. I saw a lot in this young man. In a disappointing season, I think in a disappointing season for the offensive line, number 74.
Definitely showed me some stuff.
Definitely showed me some stuff. Right. Well, I just think that Jamil Douglas, and we got the Goodman brothers coming back. I think Jamil Douglas and the Goodman brothers. Watch out for those guys. I think we got some horses in waiting here on the offensive line. That's what I'm anticipating in 2013.
The biggest impact, I think, has obviously got to go to Grice, Coyle, and Foster. I think that they all came together. But my offensive MVP, in addition to Marion Grice, has got to be Taylor Kelly. I mean, for him to manage the game the way he did this year, and I don't think Mike Bercovici and Michael Eubank could have done any better. For him to come out and be as sound and poised as he was in the position, I think, is very understated. To me, he was one of the most valuable players for this team in 2012.
We are in agreement 100%, because that's going to do it for the 2012 ASU offensive recap. When we get back, talk about a little bit of the defense. Let's talk about who on that side of the ball impacted us, who disappointed us, and we'll go from there and wrap up 2012 once and for all, and we'll get to some other fun stuff like some heroes and zeros and good and bad of the ugly 2012.
Yes.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.